got a great setup there. I cannot fail. So I've just realized that probably not many people in the room know me, but I've worked with probably over 60 startups, one form or another, as either a founder or an advisor or a strategic advisor. So I've a lot of experience in startups. The presentations this morning were great, by the way. They were just really spot on for learning. So what I want to do today is I just want to go through, I'm a co-founder and VP of product at Webio. We're a conversation middleware company. I'm going to explore what the conversational market is a little bit today, a small bit about Webio at the end. So again, purpose of the presentation, bit of a look at the reality of user adoption of this, maybe looking at some of the themes that might show why this market is developing or not, and a bit of exploration of what the conversation gaps might be. So I like using this number because it's kind of easy to kind of forget is that 90% of the UK population are addressable through either WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and or Instagram. So if customers move to this channel or do this, it's going to be a significant shift in where people are communicating and who's in charge of that conversation. And again, I think it's one of those things that you may not see from where you are, but this is a shift. The volume, so the messaging volume here is already in the trillions, and it's 15 times peak SMS. So people are not only switching channels, they're messaging more in that channel. Voice first, playing your music, turning on your lights, all these are skills added to the Alexa platform. You're seeing those skills now hit 50,000 different skills. The skills have gone global, and they're still at a rapidly growing pace, although the speed seems to be decreasing slightly. So at its peak here is at 266% growth in skills being added to the platform. So again, you're seeing that the channel is actually being like widely adopted. And the value of the voice commerce, so this is people saying, hey, I want to buy this thing through a voice interface, is projected to be everything from 2 billion to 45 billion, and I'll come back to this figure. But the numbers of this as a channel, as an interface, are quite extraordinary. Now, because I don't like to buy my own BS all the time, I try and keep an eye out for counter indicators. So Intercom, which I love, I'm a huge Intercom fanboy. They started out as a CRM for apps company, and now they're like a $1 billion company doing chat apps. They've recently just launched their whole platform again as a kind of bot-first platform, saying, we got it wrong. And these guys do all their own research. So they've just done a very big pivot into the idea of being able to call up services from within the platform or from within the messaging. Microsoft, they've just moved their whole Cortana, I should say, back into the search part of their business. And that's because search actually is one of the starting points of a conversation, and conversations are kind of asking for things. So what you're seeing is this search and conversations circle kind of closing out. It's the one thing. Google. Everyone saw the Google Duplex demo during the year, I take it. The fascinating thing about the Google Duplex demo is that it actually became the uncanny valley of voice. Everyone got kind of slightly freaked out by how good it was. I think everyone understands that the technology underpinning it is very good and getting better and better all the time. But it was the design of the conversation that really made the difference. So the way it kind of went up at the end of the line, the way it kind of had hesitations, the way it, I don't know, maybe, the way it did those kind of things, that's conversation design. And that is what made the impact. That's what kind of made us all go, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? I feel like Darth Vader here, just not getting anything done. I'm not sure yet. Yep. Nope. If you just move it forward for me manually, maybe, yep. So this is just another trend here, Alexa for hospitality. It's just an example of verticalization. So we've seen the platform go out. So you've seen all the adoption of the smart speakers and the messengers. Now you're seeing, okay, in particular industries, this has got to have some more capability. So they've launched one for the hospitality. And again, maybe a platform won't do everything you need out of the box. It needs to be verticalized a little bit, and we might keep an eye open for some of that. I don't know, am I pointing at this? Okay, here's some things here. Again, more soft signals, because I think that's what this conference is about. What we're seeing in chat is B2C adoption. So big companies talking to lots of customers in the customer service area. That is one of the biggest adoption areas for this technology. In business to employee, there's a lot of adoption of conversational interfaces. So saying, enabling the HR system, say, when's my next holiday? Am I entitled to more days off? Can I take these days off? Can I book these kind of rooms? These kind of applications are being built. And because I also run a conference, I'm able to speak to a lot of companies about this. You don't hear about the internal adoption of this kind of technology in companies. And what a lot of companies are doing is they're adopting it internally, testing it on their own employees, and when they're happy that this technology works and that it does things for them, then they'll roll it out. So I think we're seeing a lot of hidden innovation in the area. And another point about it is that people aren't cooperating or collaborating a lot between companies on their experiences in this area. So I don't think the learning is being particularly well shared at the moment. When you're starting to use this technology as a channel, it is going to be competing with the other channels. So for instance, if you have a link in your Facebook feed saying, hey, let's continue this conversation on a messenger as opposed to in any other way, like in the thread, that has to perform better kind of out of the box than an existing solution. So maybe it's not getting the time to compete with existing embedded solutions, but that's the way companies are looking at it. They try it, they test it. If it doesn't work better than what they have, they drop it. Implicit invocation is something I'd keep my eye on. So that's the idea that I can go to my hotel, go to my Echo or Alexa and say, are there any laundry services around here I can use? Can I get my laundry collected? Now, I haven't downloaded any specific app for that use case, but it knows I'm asking for laundry. It's probably about laundry. These are the laundry companies around here. These are the ones that are best rated. Let's connect him to that laundry company and continue this conversation through that. So the implicit invocation, I think, is something that you should keep your eye on. The more that gets used, the more that gets adopted, the more the paradigm will start to move towards in that way. I made a reference to this earlier. I just call this the prototype gap. Across the industry, what I'm seeing is lots of companies doing prototype development in-house, quite large teams some of the times, like anywhere from 3 to 10 people working on these kind of projects. But what I'm seeing is that they're not making it through that early gap. They get the prototype up and running, but they have difficulty in getting it to business as usual. So when you're, if you are trying to run one of these projects, what I would say is that there's a big gap after running your prototype and getting it to business as usual. And you need a plan for getting that going. And again, just talking to people, what we're seeing now is more of an emphasis on what's called good old-fashioned engineering principles. So if you apply your good old-fashioned engineering principles to this very lean technology stuff, you actually get better results. And by having good testing, by having good practices, by having good rollout, by having good maintenance, etc. Just a quick example here of an industry. If you are in the hotels business, you are you are familiar with the over-the-top agents, like Booking.com, and they are both a curse and a help. They can be driving up to 80% of the traffic for some places, but they're taking up to 15% of the price. This is nearly a $500 billion business. As I said, over 80% going to the OTA, 80% of the traffic coming from the OTA, but the 15% of the margin or the price going to them. The other thing is they don't hand over any data. So if you're a customer, I'm booking a hotel in Lisbon, that hotel does not get the data on me. Booking.com keeps it. The hotel does not get to do the one thing it needs to do, which is personalized services, and it doesn't get to build any relationship with me. So it's one of those examples of an industry where, yeah, it seems to be kind of in this dominant platform. They need it and they hate it at the same time. So there's an opportunity for hotels to build, or so we thought, a direct conversation with their customers. So if the customer engages with you over the messenger, you can actually offer whatever prices you want as a vendor, as a hotel vendor. We in Webio built Ireland's first find, book and pay for a room over Messenger. It is with the live integration with the booking platform. It is live integration with payments providers. You have to model the conversation, et cetera, et cetera. But what it shows is it's pretty easy to do this. It's difficult to do the integrations and make it all look easy, but it can be done. The difficult parts are, of course, the integration, managing the APIs, but also just making sure that conversation is as easy as possible to get done in the least amount of clicks. It has to be like super convenient, and that's why you're seeing in messengers more of the buttons and more of the pictures, just to make it as quickly as possible to execute the commands. There was too many turns in the conversation, like what do you want? I want this, is it this, it's that. There's too many using just language alone or just text alone. Now, what I'd like to introduce is a new concept, I hope. So we did this with a hotel in Ireland, Hotel Group, and it was the first part of the project. So can I find a hotel, book a hotel, pay for the hotel? Now that you know this, you've got this direct relationship with the customer, what you can do is you can start to engage with them more. So I'm arriving tomorrow. Hey, why not tell me traffic is probably busy at the time or what time are you thinking of going to be at the hotel? Great, watch out, traffic tends to be heavy at that time. You now know what time they're arriving at. If you have their location information, you might know that they're 5 minutes away or that they've arrived. Maybe you can do an automatic check-in for them. If I'm arriving maybe between 6 and 7 in the evening as I was last night, and the restaurant's closing at 8, you can give me a message saying, hey, we have an on-site restaurant, this is what it is, do you want to see some menus or book a table? And I might actually do that. True story, I stayed at the same hotel in Dublin for 10 years, never once went to their gym. CEO came over with me one day. He says, we're going to the gym. I says, I hate the gym. He says, no, we're going to the pool. I says, I hate swimming. He says, come on down. You have to see this place. So I went down, saw this beautiful pool, no one in it, like a lit cavern at night with soft music playing. It was just the most relaxing, brilliant place. Staying in the hotel 10 years, never saw it. And the point of this is hotels and by proxy, all businesses have to figure out how to build and reintegrate the relationships with their customers. If they can use conversational interfaces to do that, that's a big deal to them. Of course, once you build it for messengers, etc., you should be able to do it for Alexa and the voice interfaces, so we're also putting in the voice devices in the rooms. Now, the extended conversation is not just what you have on premises, but I alluded earlier to invocation, and if I say, look, I don't want to use your restaurant on site. What I want to do is I want to get good sushi. So are there any good sushi places around here? I can have that from within my conversation as well. Or I want to get my laundry collected. Can I get laundry? And the thought occurred to me that big hotels used to do all this kind of thing the whole time. They'd take your suit or your shirts and they'd wash them and have them back by the morning, etc. But if you've got like kind of an extended view of these services, what you can do is you can say, I'd like to call up the laundry service. I'd like to get my sushi delivered. And smaller hotels could actually compete with bigger hotels because they have a lot more access to a lot more services if they can deliver them. And I thought this was a really good idea, and I'm a really sharp guy. And then I saw in the paper that they're already doing this, right? So the hotel groups are going, you know what, we're going to lose out here a little bit. So now what they're doing, instead of, you know that thing where you kind of book 2 nights in a hotel and you want the third and they refuse to give it to you, or you need 2 and you just can't do the booking because I need 3 nights, I need to stay there 3 nights. So they allow you to book 2 and then they'll suggest an Airbnb or a staycation place nearby and they'll give you a deal on that. So yeah, stay here for 2 nights, stay 1 night there, it's all fine, your trip is taken care of. And I think that's a really interesting development. So again, what we're seeing is, frankly, you know, the medium-term concern is delivering well-designed conversation, good intent extraction, understanding context, moving that along. That's kind of, in our business, table stakes at the moment. The really important stuff is all about the data. It's about conversational data, what's happening in the conversation, what context can you get, what more information can you get about that conversation. And it was really interesting hearing the conversations earlier today, because there's little bits of this along the way, but I'd like to emphatically state that this is what we're seeing across all the businesses we're dealing with. It's all about the AI. What can you do? How can you do it better? What can we? It's AI, AI, AI. That's nearly the whole story. I'm going to just go off script a little bit. Does anyone here ever use Google Lens? Anyone? No. Few. So Google Lens is kind of called camera first interaction. So you open up your camera, you point it at a thing, and it goes, this thing is called, I don't know, an exercise machine, right? And you go, oh, great, what else can you tell me about it? Where can I buy one of these? Can I use this one now? Can I book this one for tomorrow? It gives you all the information. You're able to extract the information that object is able to tell you by a lookup. Or I could point it at the hotel and go, that's a lovely hotel. Because the hotel is not fully booked. I can actually get you a room here tonight. Double room, €50. And book it, done. I didn't have to do a search, didn't have to find the name of the hotel, didn't have to do anything else. That's a camera first interaction. And in that example, it was the starting place, but you might also be in a messaging conversation of some sort and open the camera, look at like the washing machine that you're trying to get fixed, and it goes, oh, it's that model, or it's that make, or it's able to get more information. So it's not just about text interaction, it's also going to be about object recognition, it's going to be vision driven. You're going to know more about what people are saying from the voice analytics. So this is just the start of more and more data about how you're saying things and what you're saying. Webio, we think this is the way it's all going anyway, so I'm kind of a bit of an evangelist for this stuff. But I think that in the middle of this, you need some sort of way of understanding how you're going to have better conversations joined up with your customers across all their conversations with you. So we think there's this concept called conversation middleware, which is basically a way of saying you need to join your people and your digital assets to the conversation. So in some instances, that's, does this customer have a booking? What is their name? What are they like from this interaction at this point in time, etc. And you're going to connect that to CRM systems, payment systems, and other sort of digital assets that you have. I'm going to zip by this. We just conceive this as kind of 3 different layers. One is reach, like can I reach my customers? Second is can I add various skills to these conversations? So you might have, I'm going to add a payment skill, I'm going to add a security skill. So in some cases, we don't want people sharing data of particular types over messaging, or vulnerability skill, which says if customers act in a certain way or speak in a certain way, they may not be able to engage in a legal conversation or a payments conversation with you. And then the machine learning. So while you're doing this and gathering all this conversational data, you're trying to get better and better at having these conversations with your customers. And that can be a whole range of things, but like we know within 3 utterances of a conversation with a customer whether or not they're going to pay a bill. Right? That's fairly impressive. And so the hard nuts of like getting an adoption. So we work with Shop Direct, which is the largest retailer in the UK. I don't know how many I think they're a $10 billion company. We automated 40% of their conversations within 3 months of going live. That's a big impact for them. Anglian Water, you would think utility companies might be a little bit behind here. So we raised engagement with all their customers in their debt collections department. And another group, Zinc, we got out of customers who just weren't engaging at all, we got 50% of them to engage. And so we got a kind of a prejudiced view here. Is we think that for this stuff to work in large companies, it's got to matter to them. We don't want to do kind of cool point solutions. We want to make a broad difference across a lot of their customer interactions and then move them from, say, SMS to web to voice to the next thing to the next thing. But we don't want to become one of those small niche projects that marketing dream up and then dump. So the checkout. Again, to be provocative, I think direct digital conversations are disruptive, but they're disruptive maybe to different people. In our case, maybe they're disruptive to the OTA players, the Booking.coms of the world. Maybe conversational data is the most valuable data that a company has that it's not harnessing and using right now. Rather than getting caught up in AI, think about specific AI. So what can this AI specifically do for this part of a conversation, or this maybe routing, or this queuing, or this response? Like, we don't think about general AI, we think about how it can be used specifically to make something better. If we develop this concept of conversational AI, maybe we need to think about, well, if it's all about the data and it's all about the conversation, does that conversational AI become an API itself? And that is the area of cognitive services. And there's a lot of money for a lot of those big companies riding on that concept. And my final point in the checkout is stay loose. Nobody knows exactly how this is going to play out. There's a lot of conflicting data out there. There's not a lot of great data about real customer engagement, real stickiness of these solutions. So it's very early days. Something's very definitely happening, but stay loose and adapt to the way things go. So I think that's me done. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Paul. As you know, been a fan since we first met in California, the Bay Area, many years ago. So, and I recognize some of the customers as well. So it's good to see, the evolution of the business. I fully support this notion you have of conversational middleware. And I think it's a good partner to have to many of these players that are in the CPaaS space, that are looking at, okay, so how do I stitch together all these bots that sort of vertical implementations with something that actually sort of delivers greater business value?
I was trying to be careful not to pitch the company, but again, as an industry event, one of the things I would share is that as companies try and scale, like they get some success and they try and scale the amount of bots they have and scale the usage, scaling becomes a problem. So if you are testing out solutions, how it scales is a really important question. And how intents are handled at scale across a large business also matters. So you need control over these issues. And not all vendors are going to be enterprise-class vendors. That's what I would say about that. Yeah.
Excellent point. Do we have any questions for Paul?
Except for Dean.
Oh, I know, yeah, Dean's been quiet. Oh, here you go.
Paul, thanks for the presentation. Actually, I just wonder, what's the elevator pitch to the customers? Is there like a analysis on the ROI for them?
So Thank you for the question. The elevator pitch was, all your customers are moving to messaging. How are you going to provide customer service to them? And the next question then was, I don't know. When can you take a meeting? That was my pitch. It was the best I've had in my 20 years of working with startups. Is all your customers have moved to messaging. How are you going to provide customer service to them? I have no idea. Next. Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't get more complicated. Yeah. Yeah. Knew it.
Hi. I heard one presentation from someone recently that suggested that web chat logs, the text in them,
Yeah.
is potentially a really good source of input for
Yeah.
sort of machine learning and chatbots, whether they're voice or text-based. Are you seeing that as well?
So it's one of those. I'd say it's one of those issues of staying loose a little bit. So what I would say in principle is always work on real data. So that's the first principle. Second is if chat logs are there, great, use them. But not everyone acts the same way in every channel. So even just moving them from chat to SMS or SMS to messaging may actually result in different interaction patterns or different language or different timings. So it might be a good start, but I wouldn't hang my hat on it. I would always try and generate my own data in that channel if I could.
Good point. Great. So again, Paul, excellent presentation. Thank you for the insights. That was really good.